I got you. Do you have your license on you? I stopped you because you crossed double yellow lines to turn left onto Mount Vernon. Well, I'm saying that you weren't allowed to turn left right there because it's separated by those double yellow lines. I got you. Do you have your license on you? Go ahead and step it up.
King Harris, yes, T.I.'s own son, has hit rock bottom, and the story behind his latest run-in with the law and time in jail is something you need to hear. This isn't just about another celebrity kid making headlines. This is a cautionary tale about fame, family, and the harsh reality that comes when you make the wrong choices in the wrong places. King Harris, once acting untouchable online, flashing weapons and talking big, is now facing a side of life that no social media post can protect you from. Insiders say that while King was pacing in a cold county jail cell, the metal doors slamming around him, his fake confidence started to fade fast. The streets, and apparently the jail system, do not hand out second chances, and King is learning that the hard way. For months, King had been online acting tough, posting pictures, videos, and stories to show the world he wasn't just T.I.'s son, but a force to be reckoned with on his own. He flaunted wealth, mocked critics, and tried to show that he could survive anything. But inside those jail walls, reality hit him like a truck. There were no fans, no cameras, no Wi-Fi to show off his bravado. Instead, there were hardened men, some with nothing left to lose, and whispers that he had crossed the wrong people. This wasn't about showing toughness anymore, this was about survival. Sources say King reportedly made a dangerous mistake by cracking jokes at older inmates, thinking he was still in the streets, joking like he would in a Waffle House parking lot fight. But this time, the stakes were real, and the consequences could have been deadly. The situation escalated quickly when some inmates realized that this wasn't just any loudmouth kid. This was T.I.'s son, King Harris, carrying the weight of a legacy without fully understanding it. Suddenly, King wasn't just a kid trying to act tough, he became a target. Some inmates wanted to earn respect by testing him. Others wanted revenge for perceived slights against the Harris family name, and a few just wanted to make an example out of him. King's situation reportedly went from dangerous to panic-inducing within minutes, and he ran to the jail phone to call his father, T.I., begging for help. The same man he had publicly argued with just months before was now his only hope of safety. T.I., who himself has a history with legal trouble and understands the streets better than most, reportedly scrambled behind the scenes. No flashy Instagram posts, no public drama. Instead, lawyers, contacts, and trusted people from the Atlanta underworld were quietly contacted to make sure King stayed safe. King, who once thought he could prove his grit and toughness, was now realizing that fame and a famous father could only protect him so much. The people inside weren't impressed by online clout or family names. Jail, insiders say, runs on respect, fear, and power, and King was suddenly learning that mistakes here can be fatal. The calls to T.I. weren't just pleas for help, they were cries for survival. King had spent months talking big and acting fearless, but the bill had come due, and it was his own safety on the line. To understand how King got here, we have to rewind to October 2024. Reports say King wasn't caught in some gang shootout or major crime. No, it was a seemingly small incident. King was driving his black BMW in the suburbs, nearly sideswiping a police cruiser. The flashing lights kicked off a series of events that would turn his life upside down. Officers reported smelling weed and spotting weapons in his vehicle. When they ran his name, old charges he had ignored popped up, leading to his arrest. Suddenly, King was cuffed, processed, and splashed across headlines, reminding everyone that even sons of hip-hop royalty aren't immune to the law. Body cam footage allegedly shows King acting calm, even casual, admitting to having guns in the car without blinking. But the moment he stepped behind bars, the story changed. The calm, polite attitude couldn't shield him from jail politics. King's experience inside reportedly taught him the harsh reality of jail life. The people there weren't internet trolls. They were lifers, hustlers, men who had been hardened by life and ready to assert dominance over anyone who looked weak or arrogant. Sources say King's loud mouth, his joking, and even his name dropped about being T.I.'s son made him a target. What started as a small arrest turned into a survival situation. Insiders say King realized the depth of the problem when whispers reached him that some inmates weren't planning to rough him up, they had intentions to erase him completely. That's when panic reportedly set in. King ran to the jail phone, calling his father for protection, perhaps hoping his father's name, influence, and resources could smooth things over. And T.I., understanding the situation better than anyone, acted quickly but quietly to protect his son and his family legacy. King Harris's story isn't just about one night in jail. It's about choices, legacy, and consequences. For years, T.I. has warned his son about chasing the street life, about getting caught up in reckless behavior, about trying to prove toughness in ways that could ruin everything. King's desire to act tough, to show grit, to prove he wasn't just a rich kid living in luxury, led him into situations he wasn't prepared for. Becoming a father himself in late 2024 was supposed to be his wake-up call, a chance to step into responsibility and manhood. But instead, he found himself repeating a cycle T.I. had been trying to protect him from for years. The streets, the law, and even jail politics don't forgive mistakes, and King Harris learned this the hard way. Insiders suggest that the chaos King found himself in could have been avoided if he had listened to the warnings. But pride, youth, and the desire for street credibility often overpower logic. King wanted to show he could handle life on his own terms, that he wasn't just T.I.'s son. But in doing so, he became a target, a test for others, and a cautionary example of how fame doesn't equal invincibility. T.I., seeing his son in danger, had to step in quietly, using every tool at his disposal to ensure King's safety. This wasn't just about bailing out a son from a night in jail, it was about preserving a family name and a legacy in the world of hip-hop. Even the smallest actions inside jail reportedly had huge implications for King. Every joke, every mention of money or his father, and every attempt to act tough was being watched and analyzed by men who understood that in jail, reputation can be life or death. The whispers that spread about King being T.I.'s son changed everything. Suddenly, the bravado that had carried him online turned into a liability behind bars. The same confidence that made him seem untouchable was now putting his life at risk. Panic, fear, and desperation replaced smirks and swagger, and King reportedly reached out to his father for help, realizing that sometimes survival means putting ego aside and asking for support. King's journey in jail is also a story about legacy and learning the value of guidance. T.I., who grew up in the streets and spent time behind bars, knows the mistakes and lessons firsthand. He has spent years trying to teach his son the importance of caution, humility, and responsibility, but youth and rebellion often make lessons harder to accept. King wanted to carve his own path, to show that he could handle life without relying on his father. But reality hit hard when whispers started spreading about his treatment inside jail, about the threats he faced, and about how quickly respect and power can shift in such an environment. This story is a reminder that growing up in privilege doesn't shield you from danger if choices are made recklessly. The whole incident also highlights the intersection of fame and real-life consequences. King Harris, born into success and known as T.I.'s son, learned firsthand that celebrity status doesn't guarantee safety. The people in jail didn't care about social media followers, flashy cars, or online bravado. They cared about respect, fear, and power. And King, in his attempt to show toughness, unwittingly put himself in the crosshairs of men who had nothing to lose. This stark reality check seems to have been a turning point for King, and insiders suggest that his call to T.I. was more than a plea. It was a recognition that survival sometimes requires humility and support from those with experience. King's story also serves as a wake-up call for others in similar situations. The combination of youth, fame, and a desire for street credibility can quickly turn dangerous, especially when placed in environments like jail where power dynamics are intense and mistakes are unforgivable. T.I.'s reaction, though quiet and behind the scenes, shows that sometimes protection, guidance, and intervention are necessary to prevent a young life from going off the rails. It's not just about avoiding legal trouble, it's about surviving and learning lessons that could save a life.
I need some grabber leaf. Hit me. I left mine in the goddamn car. I don't feel like going to get it. Trying to go, bro. Just sit down. Bob, man, I just ran into a motherfucker. Showed me exactly what I look like, motherfucker. Bob, look who.
Look your sad P. Catch that boy. You.
Hell no, man. Hey, man, I look like Bob, man. I just ran into a motherfucker. Showed me exactly what I look like, motherfucker. Bob, look who.
Look your sad.
Even after King was released, the story didn't end. Headlines, blogs, and social media exploded with news about T.I.'s son being arrested, about the guns and weed found in his car, and about his run-in with the law. But what most people didn't see was the behind-the-scenes scramble to keep him safe and to guide him towards understanding the consequences of his actions. For King, the lesson is clear. Acting tough online, chasing street credibility, and ignoring guidance from those who have been through it all can quickly turn into life-threatening situations. Fame cannot replace wisdom, experience, or respect for environments you don't fully understand. T.I. watched. The thing about King Harris's situation is that it's not just a single night in jail. It's a wake-up call. It's a moment that shows how fast life can change when you think the rules of the streets or social media don't apply to you. For someone like King, who grew up with fame, money, and a household full of opportunity, jail was like stepping into another world entirely. One minute you're flexing online, the next you're pacing a cold concrete cell, realizing the bravado that once defined you is useless. Sources say that King, once cocky and full of swagger, started calling T.I. in desperation, mumbling, pleading, and hoping his father could intervene before things got worse. It wasn't about pride anymore. It wasn't about fame. It was about survival. T.I., understanding the gravity of the situation, reportedly moved quickly. Friends, lawyers, and trusted contacts from Atlanta were all quietly mobilized. This wasn't about making headlines or posting dramatic Instagram stories. T.I. was working behind the scenes, ensuring his son would come out of this without lasting harm. For King, who spent months acting untouchable, this was a brutal lesson. The world doesn't owe you respect, fame won't protect you, and mistakes, even small ones, can escalate fast. The whispers that spread through the jail, identifying him as T.I.'s son, reportedly shifted the entire dynamic. He went from being just another inmate to being a target for people who wanted to make a statement. What's shocking here is how quickly King's perception of power and safety changed. Just months before, he was posting online, flaunting money, joking about fights, and mocking anyone who questioned him. He had a fake confidence that many saw as arrogance, but it was mostly just youthful bravado. Behind bars, there were no cameras, no fans, no Wi-Fi. There was only reality, and reality, insiders say, hit hard. Reports suggest that some inmates weren't just trying to humble him, they wanted to make an example out of him, testing the Harris legacy itself. Fame, clout, or being T.I.'s son didn't matter. Power in jail is earned differently, and King was suddenly learning that lesson in the most terrifying way possible. It's also worth noting that King's arrest in October 2024 wasn't some over-the-top street situation. No gang shootouts, no undercover stings. It was a near miss with a police cruiser, a car full of weapons, and old charges that he had ignored. That's all it took to put him in the middle of something much bigger than he ever expected. While the charges were eventually softened and King walked free, the experience inside jail reportedly left a lasting mark. Body cam footage shows him admitting to having guns in the car without hesitation, almost casually. But that bravado didn't translate to jail survival. The moment he stepped into that environment, the stakes became life or death. Family, this is where the story takes another turn. King, trying to act tough, reportedly started cracking jokes at older inmates, even name-dropping his father. That, insiders say, was the ultimate mistake. In a place where respect and fear dictate everything, showing arrogance or ignorance can quickly put you in serious danger. The whispers that spread that this was T.I.'s son escalated the situation. Suddenly, King Harris became a living target, and every move he made was watched, measured, and judged. Panic set in, and that's when he reached out to his father, T.I., the man whose own life had once navigated these same dangers. T.I. understood immediately what was at stake, not just for his son, but for the family legacy. While King reportedly called from jail, half pleading and half frustrated, T.I. moved quietly but strategically. This wasn't about lawyers, bail, or social media statements. It was about survival. Contacts from the streets, old networks, and trusted advisors that were all activated to ensure King came out safely. The story shows just how quickly fame and online bravado can evaporate when you are faced with the real-life consequences of your choices. King had been living in a bubble of privilege, thinking he could act untouchable because of his father's fame. But jail taught him that no amount of online followers, flashy cars, or family connections guarantees safety when the rules are different and the stakes are real. This story also highlights the generational challenge that T.I. faces. He spent years trying to guide King away from the path he himself knew too well: the streets, the legal trouble, and the dangerous culture that surrounds them. King, however, wanted to prove that he could handle life on his own terms. He wanted respect, clout, and to show that he wasn't just living off his father's legacy. But in doing so, he found himself in a situation where his father's lessons suddenly became crucial. T.I.'s quick action behind the scenes likely saved King from a potentially deadly situation. And here's the part that really hits. Jail, insiders say, doesn't care who you are. The people inside aren't impressed by social media followers, flashy cars, or even the name you carry. Respect has to be earned, fear has to be understood, and power dynamics must be navigated carefully. King's loudmouth and attempts at showing toughness made him a target, and the situation reportedly escalated quickly. That's when survival instincts kicked in, and King realized that sometimes you have to call for help, even if it means swallowing pride and relying on those with experience, like his father. T.I.'s response, quiet but strategic, shows that parenting in the world of fame comes with unique challenges. It's not just about providing money or comfort. It's about guiding, protecting, and sometimes intervening to prevent mistakes from escalating into a tragedy. King's experience, which began as a seemingly small arrest, quickly became a life lesson about respect, consequences, and the harsh realities of environments he wasn't prepared for. The contrast between his online persona and his real-life vulnerability is stark, and it's something that resonates for many young people who chase online clout without understanding real-world consequences. After King's release, the public reaction was intense. Headlines, blogs, and social media outlets reported every detail of the arrest, the weapons, and the jail experience. While the legal side was handled relatively quickly, the cultural impact and the lessons for King were profound. He had gone from a young man acting untouchable online to someone who had to rely on his father and family connections to navigate a dangerous situation. The story serves as a reminder that fame, privilege, and confidence don't always equal safety. Real life can hit hard, and sometimes the only way to survive is to recognize your mistakes and reach out for help. The aftermath also leaves us asking questions about King's future. Will he learn from this experience? Will he grow into the father, man, and artist he wants to be? Or will he continue chasing street credibility, clout, and risky behavior that could put him in danger again? This story isn't just about one night in jail. It's about legacy, choices, survival, and the lessons that come when the bubble of privilege is popped. King's story is a cautionary tale for anyone who thinks that fame can shield them from consequences. T.I., watching his son navigate this crisis, reportedly reflected on the importance of breaking cycles. He knows firsthand how quickly a life can be derailed by bad choices and unchecked arrogance. For King, this was a chance to understand the true value of guidance, experience, and respect. His father's intervention may have kept him safe this time, but the lessons learned will stick with him for life. Every decision King makes going forward will determine whether he rises above this moment or continues a cycle that could end in disaster. Family, I want you to pay attention here because King Harris's journey is far from over. The story still unfolds, and what happens next will be crucial. The streets, the law, and even public perception are all factors that he now has to navigate carefully. Fame and privilege can only take you so far. Real-life choices, respect, and understanding the environment you are in are what determines survival. T.I.'s quiet, strategic action behind the scenes may have saved his son from immediate danger, but the road ahead is still challenging. King's story is a lesson in humility, responsibility, and the harsh realities of chasing toughness without understanding the risks.